Have you ever felt a lie before you heard it? Not a suspicion, not a guess, but a physical sensation. A cold knot in your stomach when someone smiles at you. A subtle, high-pitched frequency in the air when a room full of people pretends everything is fine. Most people dismiss this. They call it anxiety, overthinking, being too sensitive. They are told to rationalize it, to ignore the data their own body is screaming at them. But you can't, because for you it isn't a flaw, it's a faculty. The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung understood that the human psyche is an ocean, and what most people call reality is just the surface foam. They live their lives on a tiny, constructed raft, terrified of the depths below. But some are born to be divers. They are pulled, sometimes against their will, into the vast, dark, treasure-filled waters of the unconscious. They are what we might call the spiritually gifted. This isn't about crystals or psychic hotlines. This is about a profound, often brutal, level of psychological and emotional awareness. It's a gift that feels like a curse until you learn how to wield it. It's the ability to see the architecture of the soul, the hidden wiring behind the persona, the shadow that follows every single person. If you've ever felt like you're operating on a different frequency, if you see the hidden motives behind the small talk, if you feel the emotional weather patterns of a room like a human barometer, then this is not for your entertainment. This is for your validation and your survival. We are about to dissect the 13 experiences that are exclusive to the spiritually gifted. These are the signs, the burdens, and the superpowers that separate you from the crowd. This is the manual they never gave you, a guide to navigating a world that is not built for the depth of your perception. We will explore each of these experiences, not as abstract ideas, but as real, visceral events grounded in the profound psychology of Carl Jung, so you can finally stop thinking you're broken and start understanding the nature of your power. This is 13 things only spiritually gifted people experience. Carl Jung. 1. Feeling the unseen room. This is the entry point, the most fundamental and often the most confusing experience. You walk into a room after a meeting has ended, and even though the air is silent, you can still feel the echo of the argument. You can taste the bitterness of unspoken resentment. You can feel the thick, heavy cloak of grief in a house where someone is pretending to be strong. This isn't just intuition, it's a form of psychic osmosis. You are an emotional and energetic sponge, absorbing the residue left behind in places and from people. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of human experience, memories, and archetypes. For most, this is a deep subterranean ocean. For you, the water level is much higher. You live with your feet perpetually submerged in it. A conference room isn't just four walls and a table. It's a container of ambition, fear, deception, and hope. A quiet family dinner isn't just a meal. It's a theater of decades-old power dynamics and repressed trauma. Let me tell you about a client of mine. Let's call him Alex. Alex was a brilliant architect, but he kept failing in corporate settings. He'd leave high-paying jobs, complaining of burnout and overwhelming anxiety. He thought he was weak. The truth was, Alex was experiencing the unseen room at an extreme level. He told me that during design presentations, he wasn't just reacting to the feedback on his blueprints. He was feeling the CEO's private financial anxieties, the senior partner's jealousy, and the project manager's deep-seated fear of failure. He was sitting in a storm of unconscious projections, and it was crippling him. He wasn't just designing a building, he was navigating the shadow selves of everyone in the room. The consequence of not understanding this is chronic exhaustion and misdiagnosed anxiety. You think there's something wrong with you. You internalize the toxicity of your environment. You believe you are the source of the unease when you are merely the barometer detecting it. The actionable step here is not to numb yourself, but to differentiate. When you walk into a room and feel a wave of negativity, you must stop and ask a brutally honest question. Is this mine? 90% of the time, it's not. Visualize a shield of light around you, a classic but effective tool. More practically, learn to ground yourself. Go outside, put your bare feet on the earth, touch a tree. Force your senses to focus on the physical, tangible world to discharge the psychic static you've absorbed. Your sensitivity is not a weakness, it's a radar. Learn to read it without letting the signal overwhelm the receiver. 2. The human lie detector. Spiritually gifted people have an excruciatingly low tolerance for inauthenticity. It's a physiological experience. When someone is lying, you don't just suspect it, you feel it. It's a dissonance, a grating frequency between the words they project, their persona, and the truth of their inner world. It's the overly bright smile on a friend who is secretly consumed by envy. It's the confident tone of a boss who is terrified of being exposed as a fraud. This isn't about spotting micro-expressions or body language cues, though you do that instinctively. It goes deeper. You feel the gap between their energy and their words. Jung would call this seeing the persona for what it is, a mask, a curated front for social survival. Most people interact mask to mask, a polite and superficial dance. You, however, can't help but see the trembling, hidden face behind it. And more than that, you sense their shadow, the part of themselves they have repressed and denied, peeking out from the edges of the mask. Consider the story of a woman named Clara. For years, she was in a relationship with a man everyone adored. He was charming, successful, the perfect partner on paper, but Clara was in a constant state of low-grade turmoil. She felt a deep, unsettling coldness from him even when he was saying, "I love you." Her friends told her she was sabotaging a good thing. Her family told her she was impossible to please. She started to believe them. The gaslighting, both external and internal, was immense. One day she discovered he had been living a complete double life. The lie was massive, but the shock for Clara wasn't the discovery itself. The shock was the validation. She said, "The truth was less painful than the years I spent thinking I was going crazy." Ignoring this ability is a fast track to being surrounded by fake friends, frenemies, and manipulators. You will be a prime target for narcissists and toxic people because your empathy makes you a desirable source of supply, and your self-doubt, your willingness to believe you are the problem, makes you easy to control. The action here is radical self-trust. Your body is your ultimate truth teller. That feeling of unease, of something being off, is not paranoia. It is data. Start journaling these feelings. Write down, "When I was with X, they said Y, but my body felt Z." Over time, you will see a perfect correlation between your internal lie detector and the eventual revelation of the truth. Stop seeking external validation for your inner knowing. Your perception is your protection. 3. Attracting the wounded and the projectors. Does it feel like your life is a magnet for broken people? Are you constantly finding yourself in the role of therapist, savior, or confidant to individuals who drain you dry? This isn't an accident. Spiritually gifted people emit a certain energetic signature, a frequency of depth, empathy, and stability. And to the wounded, you are a lighthouse in their storm. They are drawn to your light, hoping you can fix them, heal them, or simply carry their baggage for a while. But there's a more complex and dangerous side to this: attracting projectors. This is a core Jungian concept. People who have not done their own inner work, who have not faced their own shadow, will unconsciously project those disowned parts of themselves onto you. If they have repressed their own anger, they will see you as an angry person. If they secretly feel like a victim, they will cast you in the role of their persecutor. If they long for a hero, they will put you on a pedestal you never asked to be on, only to viciously tear you down when you fail to be their flawless savior. You become a blank screen for their internal movie. I once worked with a man, a talented artist named Ben, who was constantly targeted by his boss. The boss would publicly praise Ben's work but privately sabotage his projects, spread rumors, and create an atmosphere of intense psychological warfare. Ben was baffled. He was mild-mannered and diligent. Through our work, it became clear. The boss was a deeply insecure man who had sacrificed his own creative dreams for a corporate paycheck. He had a massive, repressed artist shadow. In Ben, he saw everything he had given up. So he had to destroy Ben, not because of who Ben was, but because Ben was a living, breathing reminder of his own self-betrayal. The consequence of not understanding this dynamic is that you will live your life reacting to a script written by someone else. You'll be confused, hurt, and perpetually on the defensive, trying to fight against accusations that have nothing to do with you. You'll exhaust yourself trying to prove you're not the villain in their story. Actionable step: depersonalize. When you are confronted with an irrationally intense emotional reaction from someone, be it adoration or hatred, you must immediately recognize it as a probable projection. Ask yourself, what part of themselves are they refusing to see that they are now forcing me to carry? Create powerful, energetic, and verbal boundaries. You can say, I am not willing to be spoken to this way, or this doesn't feel like it's about me, so I'm going to remove myself from this conversation. You are not a dumping ground for anyone's unresolved shadow. 4. Profound, symbolic dreams and synchronicities. For you, sleep is not just rest, it's a journey. Your dream life is not a random collection of daily debris. It's a cinematic production, rich with symbols, archetypes, and narrative arcs. You have epic dreams, recurring dreams, dreams that feel more real than waking life. This is your unconscious mind communicating with you, not in whispers, but in a full-throated, symbolic language. Jung believed dreams were the royal road to the unconscious, a direct line to the parts of ourselves we ignore during the day. At the same time, your waking life is punctuated by synchronicities, what Jung defined as meaningful coincidences. You'll be wrestling with a problem and the perfect book will fall off a shelf. You'll think of a long-lost friend and they'll call you that very afternoon. You'll see the same number, symbol, or animal repeatedly during a pivotal time in your life. The rational mind dismisses this as confirmation bias, but you feel the meaning. You understand that the universe is conspiring to give you a message, a breadcrumb trail on your path. A woman struggling to leave a toxic marriage kept having a recurring dream of being in her childhood home, but all the doors and windows were bricked up. She felt a crushing sense of claustrophobia. At the same time in her waking life, she started seeing caged birds everywhere in pictures on television as logos. The message was clear and suffocating. She was trapped. The dream showed her the internal reality of her situation, her psyche being sealed off. The synchronicities in the outer world were reflecting this inner truth back to her. It was the combination of these two phenomena that finally gave her the courage to break free. If you ignore these signs, you are essentially flying a plane without your instrument panel. You are cutting yourself off from your most profound source of guidance. You will feel lost, directionless, and disconnected from your own life's purpose, making choices based purely on ego and logic, which for a spiritually gifted person is a recipe for soul death. The action is to become a student of your own symbolic language. Keep a dream journal by your bed. The moment you wake up, write down everything you can remember, no matter how strange. Don't try to interpret it immediately. Just capture the images, feelings, and characters. For synchronicities, keep a log, note the event and what was on your mind at the time. Over time, you will begin to see patterns. You'll learn that for you, a snake might symbolize transformation, or a storm might represent an emotional clearing. You are learning the native tongue of your own soul. 5. A deep sense of otherness and aloneness. This is perhaps the most painful experience on the list. From a young age, you felt like you're on the outside looking in. You watch human social rituals, the small talk, the gossip, the casual cruelty, with the detached curiosity of an anthropologist studying a foreign tribe. You understand the rules, you can even play the game if you have to, but it never feels authentic. It feels like putting on a heavy, ill-fitting costume. This sense of being an outsider, an old soul, creates a profound and often aching sense of loneliness. This isn't because you're arrogant or believe you're better than others. It's because your depth of perception creates an unbridgeable gap. You're having a conversation about the weather, but you're simultaneously aware of the other person's deep sadness, their financial worries, and the lie they just told their spouse. This multi-layered awareness makes superficial interaction feel hollow and exhausting. You crave depth like you crave oxygen, and in a world obsessed with the surface, you are constantly suffocating. This feeling is a hallmark of what Jung called the process of individuation, the journey to becoming your true individual self, separate from the collective herd mentality. To become an individual, you must first feel your separateness. The pain of aloneness is the crucible in which your unique identity is forged. The danger is letting this feeling of otherness curdle into bitterness, isolation, or a victim mentality. You can retreat so far into your inner world that you cut yourself off from all human connection, convinced that no one could ever understand you. The antidote is to seek alignment, not acceptance. Stop trying to fit in with people who don't and will never speak your language. Instead, focus your energy on finding your tribe, the other 1%, the other divers. They are out there. They are in the niche bookstores, the philosophy clubs, the deep conversation groups, the spiritual workshops, the online forums dedicated to psychology and personal growth. You will recognize them instantly. The conversation will be effortless. You will feel seen, perhaps for the first time. Your otherness is not a curse. It's a filtering system designed to repel the superficial and attract the profound. 6. The overwhelming burden of empathy. There's a vast difference between cognitive empathy, understanding someone's feelings, and the effective empathy experienced by the spiritually gifted. You don't just understand the pain, you absorb it. It floods your system. When a friend is heartbroken, you feel the ache in your own chest. When you watch the news, the world's suffering isn't an abstract concept. It's a poison seeping into your bloodstream. You feel everything, often without filters. This can lead to a state of chronic emotional flooding. You become a walking repository for the pain of your family, your friends, and the world at large. People unconsciously dump their emotional garbage on you because they know you will take it. You listen, you absorb, and then you're left alone to process a mountain of pain that isn't even yours. A nurse I knew, let's call her Maria, had to quit her job in the oncology ward. It wasn't because she couldn't handle the medical duties. It was because she was taking on the fear and grief of every single patient and their family. She would go home at night and weep for hours, physically ill from the sheer volume of suffering she had absorbed. She wasn't just empathizing, she was becoming a container for death anxiety, and it was destroying her. If this is left unmanaged, it leads to compassion fatigue, burnout, depression, and even physical illness. You will sacrifice your own well-being on the altar of helping others, forgetting the most crucial rule: you cannot pour from an empty cup. The action here is to learn the art of energetic self-protection. This is not about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about becoming a skilled and boundaried healer. Before interacting with a person in pain or entering a stressful environment, visualize a semi-permeable membrane around you. It lets love and information flow out, but it filters the toxic, heavy energy coming in. Practice saying, "I can sit with you in your darkness, but I will not take it on as my own." Learn techniques like cord cutting to energetically disconnect from people after intense interactions. Your empathy is a sacred gift, not a suicide pact. Protect it fiercely. 7. The compulsive drive for truth and authenticity. For you, living a lie is not just uncomfortable, it's a form of soul violence. You have a built-in, non-negotiable need to live in alignment with the truth, your truth. This makes you the designated cycle breaker in your family and social circles. You are the one who names the elephant in the room. You are the one who calls out the toxic family dynamic that everyone else has silently agreed to enable. You are the one who walks away from the successful career that feels hollow and meaningless. This drive is a manifestation of the self, the Jungian archetype of wholeness and the regulating center of the psyche. The self is always pushing towards integration and authenticity. When your life is out of alignment with yourself, it creates an unbearable inner friction. You simply cannot tolerate the dissonance. Think of the person who is the first in their family to go to therapy, to confront the generational trauma of alcoholism or emotional neglect. Their family often brands them as the problem, as the one dredging up the past. In reality, they are the healer. They are the one with the courage to lance the generational wound so that it can finally stop festering and be passed down. Their drive for truth is a gift to the entire family system, even if it is rejected. The consequence of suppressing this drive is a life of quiet desperation. You will feel like a ghost in your own life, going through the motions, your vitality slowly draining away. Depression and self-sabotage are often the result of a psyche that is being starved of authenticity. The action is to embrace your role as a truth teller, even when it's terrifying. Understand that when you speak the truth, you will be met with resistance from those who have built their entire reality on a foundation of lies. Their anger is not about you, it's about the threat you pose to their fragile construction. Start small, speak your truth in low-stakes situations. Practice saying no without justification. State your needs clearly. Every time you honor your authentic self, you strengthen that muscle. Your life's work is not to be liked, it is to be whole. 8. Experiencing time differently. Your relationship with time is not linear. It's fluid, layered, and strange. You might experience a past trauma not as a distant memory, but as a visceral event that is happening right now. The emotional echo is so strong it feels current. Conversely, you might have flashes of the future not as a party trick prediction, but as a strong intuitive knowing of what's to come. A sudden certainty that a specific job offer is a dead end, or that a new relationship is destined for greatness. Jung was fascinated with this phenomenon, exploring concepts like the collective unconscious where past, present, and future might coexist. For the spiritually gifted, the veil between these dimensions is thin. You may feel a deep, inexplicable connection to a certain historical era, or feel a sense of nostalgia for a future that hasn't happened yet. This can be disorienting and make you feel ungrounded in the present moment. A man once described to me how he remembered the anxiety of his ancestors who survived a famine. It wasn't a thought, it was a feeling, a cellular memory of scarcity that drove him to hoard resources and fear financial instability, even though he was objectively successful. He was living out an ancestral trauma loop, experiencing a past timeline in his present reality. Ignoring this fluid perception of time can lead to chronic anxiety and a feeling of being stuck. You might be reacting to future probabilities as if they are present certainties, or be trapped in the emotional grip of the past. The action is to practice radical presence and mindfulness. Your anchor is the now. When you feel the pull of the past or the anxiety of the future, bring yourself back to your senses. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This technique forces your consciousness back into your body in this present moment. Acknowledge the information from the past or future as data, but choose to live and act from the solid ground of the present. 9. The dark night of the soul as a rite of passage. For the spiritually gifted, emotional and psychological crisis is not a sign of failure. It is a necessary and scheduled part of the journey. You will experience periods of what is called the dark night of the soul. This is not just depression or a bad mood. It is a total existential crisis, a complete dismantling of the ego self you thought you were. Everything you built your identity on, your career, your relationships, your beliefs, crumbles to dust. It feels like death, and in a way it is. It's the death of the persona, the false self. Jung saw this as a crucial phase of the individuation process. You must descend into the underworld of your own psyche, into the shadow, to retrieve the lost parts of yourself. It is a terrifying, lonely, and disorienting journey into darkness. You feel abandoned by God, by the universe, by life itself. I worked with a woman who, in her 40s, lost her job, her marriage, and her health all within a single year. She felt like a complete failure, a husk of a person. She spent months in this void, this dark night. But in that emptiness, stripped of all external validation, she began to hear the whisper of her true self for the first time. She discovered a passion for painting she had suppressed since childhood. She started building a new life, one based not on social expectation, but on authentic soul expression. She later said, "I had to lose everything I thought I wanted to find the one thing I truly needed, myself." The danger is getting stuck in the darkness, resisting the process, trying to claw your way back to your old, shattered life, or numbing the pain with addiction or distraction will only prolong the agony. The action is surrender. This is counterintuitive to our modern, action-oriented minds. But in the dark night, you cannot fight your way out. You must allow yourself to be dismantled. You must let the grief, the anger, the despair move through you. Seek support not to fix you, but to witness you. A therapist, a trusted guide, someone who understands that this is a sacred alchemical process. The dark night is not the end of your story. It is the pressure that turns the coal of your old ego into the diamond of your true, individuated self. 10. A natural connection to archetypes. You see the patterns. In the chaotic mess of human behavior, you instinctively recognize the underlying archetypes at play. You see the hero's journey in your friend's struggle to overcome adversity. You recognize the trickster energy in a manipulative colleague who sows chaos for their own amusement. You feel the presence of the wise old woman or man in a mentor who offers profound, timely advice. Archetypes, according to Jung, are universal, primordial patterns and images that derive from the collective unconscious. They are the psychic software of humanity. While most people are unknowingly acting out these archetypal scripts, you have the ability to see the script itself. You see the invisible forces and roles that shape people's lives. This allows you to understand people on a much deeper level. When your boss is acting like a tyrant, you don't just see an angry man. You see the tyrant king archetype, terrified of losing control, threatened by the young prince who might usurp him. This depersonalizes the conflict and gives you a strategic understanding of the underlying dynamics. Misusing this ability can lead to cynicism, where you reduce everyone to a simplistic label. Or you can become overwhelmed by the predictability of human folly, leading to a sense of detachment. The action is to use this knowledge with compassion and wisdom. When you recognize an archetype at play in someone, ask yourself, what is the wound or the need that is driving this archetypal expression? The tyrant king is driven by a fear of irrelevance. The eternal victim is driven by a need for care they never received. Understanding the underlying archetype allows you to respond to the person's deeper need, not just their surface behavior. It turns you from a mere observer into a wise and compassionate agent of change. 11. The inability to tolerate systemic injustice. You feel systemic dysfunction as a personal wound. The pointless bureaucracy at your job, the unspoken rules of a toxic family, the gross inequalities in society. These things don't just annoy you, they physically and spiritually repel you. Your system registers hypocrisy, manipulation, and injustice as a poison. While others may become numb or complacent, you feel a burning need to challenge the broken system, to speak out, to fight for what is right, even if you are the only one. This is the macro version of the drive for authenticity. It's the soul's rebellion against any system, corporate, familial, or social, that crushes the human spirit and operates on a foundation of lies. You are the canary in the coal mine. When you feel sick, it's a sign that the entire system is toxic. Think of the employee who can't stop themselves from questioning the unethical company policy that everyone else just accepts. They are often labeled a troublemaker, a non-team player. They risk their job, their reputation, but they are acting as the conscience of the organization. They are responding to a higher law of integrity that they cannot ignore. The danger is burnout and disillusionment. Fighting against entrenched systems is exhausting and often feels futile. You can become bitter and angry, feeling like you are screaming into a void. The action is to choose your battles wisely and find your leverage point. You cannot fix every broken system in the world, but you can make a difference in your sphere of influence. Maybe it's not about overthrowing the entire company, but about creating a pocket of sanity and integrity within your own team. Maybe it's about modeling healthy communication in your family, even if no one else joins you. Focus your powerful energy where it can have the most impact, and connect with other canaries. A choir of truth-tellers is much harder to ignore than a single voice. 12. Seeing the persona and the shadow in others. This is the culmination of many of the other points. You have X-ray vision for the human psyche. You look at someone and you see three things simultaneously. You see the persona, the polished, curated mask they present to the world. The successful executive, the happy mother, the carefree artist. Then you see the ego, the conscious self behind the mask, clinging to that identity. But most profoundly, you sense the shadow. The shadow is everything a person has repressed and disowned about themselves. It's the successful executive's hidden insecurity and feelings of fraudulence. It's the happy mother's resentment and lost dreams. It's the carefree artist's terror of discipline and failure. You see the whole picture, the light and the dark, the presented self and the hidden self. This is why small talk is so difficult for you. You're aware of the monumental psychic drama happening just beneath the surface of the conversation. This makes navigating relationships incredibly complex. You might feel deep compassion for someone's shadow, for the wounded parts they hide, but you also see how that shadow is unconsciously wreaking havoc in their life and the lives of others. You love the person but are wary of their unacknowledged darkness. The risk is becoming judgmental or spiritually arrogant. The ability to see another's shadow is not a license to call them out or try to fix them. Unsolicited psychoanalysis is a form of violence. The action is to hold this knowledge with immense humility and focus on your own shadow first. The only shadow you have the right and responsibility to work on is your own. Use your perception of others as a mirror. When you are strongly repelled by someone's shadow trait, their arrogance, their victimhood, their dishonesty, ask yourself, where is the whisper of that same trait in me? This is the great work. By integrating your own shadow, you develop the compassion and wisdom to be with others in their wholeness, without judgment and without the need to fix them. You simply see them, all of them, and that is a profound gift. 13. The lifelong journey of individuation as your core purpose. Ultimately, all these experiences point to one overarching reality. For the spiritually gifted, life is not primarily about accumulating wealth, status, or external achievements. Your soul is on a different mission. Your core purpose is the journey of individuation. Individuation is Jung's term for the process of becoming a psychologically whole, integrated individual. It is the lifelong, often arduous work of uniting the conscious and unconscious parts of the self, of integrating the shadow, of balancing the masculine and feminine energies within the animus and anima, and of connecting with the true center of the psyche, the self. Most people live their lives entirely in the service of their ego and persona. They chase what society tells them to chase. You can't. Your soul will not let you. It will create crises, the dark night, send you messages, dreams, and synchronicities, and make you feel the pain of inauthenticity until you turn inward and begin the real work. You realize that your career, your relationships, your entire life are not the goals themselves, but are the raw material, the gymnasium for this inner, alchemical process of becoming whole. The danger is seeing this as a burden, to wish you could just be normal and enjoy the superficial pleasures of life without this constant pull towards depth and integration. The final action is to consciously and courageously claim this as your path, to see it not as a curse but as a sacred calling. Your life has a profound, intrinsic meaning that is not dependent on external approval. You are here to do the deep, difficult, and beautiful work of becoming a whole human being. It is the hero's journey, and you have already been called to adventure. The aloneness, the sensitivity, the painful awareness, these are not signs that you are broken. They are the marks of your gift. They are the signs that you are awake in a world that is mostly asleep. Stop fighting your nature. Embrace your depth. Your journey is not just for you. A whole, individuated person is a beacon of light, a healing presence in the world. Your personal transformation is your ultimate service to the collective. Walk your path. The world needs the treasure that only you can find in the depths of your own soul.